Another one that we were planning to talk about here, injury-riddled team, most obviously the Miami Dolphins. Tyreek Hill. I just want to please don't forget what kind of player both Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are with Tua Tagovailoa under center. Tyreek Hill over 22 fantasy points per game in his, I believe it's 31 career games with Tua Tagovailoa, over 22. I mean, that's this season. That's the wide receiver one on a per game basis. Just game breaking, matchup winning upside every single week he's on the field. This is like what we've seen in the last month and a half is not the Miami Dolphins offense. They rank 26th or lower in yards per play, EPA per play, scoring offense. It's just it's a total disaster. And when Tua comes back, I mean, nobody really needs to be reminded of how good Tyreek Hill is. I mean, I think that's pretty straightforward. But Jalen Waddle last season on a per route basis, Jalen Waddle was one of those guys that a lot of people like to evaluate on a per route basis just because he was injured in so many games and left drives here and there. Top 10 in targets, yards, and fantasy points per route run last season. He can compete with the elite receivers. He can compete with the best of them. I think Tyreek Hill is a shoe-in top 5 guy for the rest of the season, and I believe I have Jalen Waddle inside the top 20.
Hey, as an aside, let me ask you guys something. What'd you think of Tua saying he's not wearing a Guardian cap when he comes back?
It's wild.
And they said why, and he said personal choice.
Yeah, I don't know. If you look a little foolish out there, but you're protecting yourself, I don't get why this guy wouldn't wear the Guardian cap. It makes no sense to me. He absolutely should. But Mo, in addition to your point, I think Tyreek, Waddle are great buys, but I also think Devon Achane, who's seeing a really, really solid workload this year. If you had said we were going to be getting the weighted opportunities that this guy is getting, right around 60% of the snaps and touches, if you had told me that going into the year, I would have said this guy should be a top 5 overall pick in fantasy drafts, and it hasn't been getting overly effective production just like those other guys because nobody can move the ball in that offense. But with Tua back, I do think Devon Achane is a phenomenal. See if you can get him for lower based on what his recent production has, because the underlying peripherals, the metrics in terms of expected fantasy points for Achane have been insane. And I know he won't be nearly as efficient as he was last year, the record-breaking efficiency. But if he can even get close to that level with the usage he's now seeing, he'll break fantasy over the last half of the year. So he's definitely a guy I would add to that list as we're talking about the Dolphins. Somebody I would love to buy. So those are the obvious ones, though, the CMCs, the Dolphins. I think we should toss out at least a handful more of guys that everything is right for a potential turnaround. I'll throw out, maybe we can alternate here. And obviously, Truth, of course, toss in any that you hear that you like, or if you have any other ones. I'm going to go with Amari Cooper, another one that seems obvious on paper, but I don't know if people are quite recognizing how monstrous this guy could be. He only played 34% of the routes in his first week, 5 days of practice, doesn't have much time. And on just 12 total routes, he accounts for 42% targets per route run, 22% of the team's air yards, ultimately commands a 16% target share and scores 16.6 fantasy points, was the wide receiver 11, again, on 34% of the routes, 1.36 fantasy points per route. Last year in his historic season with Tyreek Hill, he averaged 0.75 fantasy points per route. Now, again, small sample. I get it. I'm not saying that Amari Cooper is going to suddenly put up 1.3 fantasy points per route, but the fact that he already had a great smashing debut, that this offense is just a buzzsaw even without him on there. Once that becomes an 80% route share, I really think Amari Cooper is going to be a shoe-in top 10 wide receiver that you can still buy right now because of the way he was weighed down by Deshaun Watson. Still think you can probably buy him as a mid-range to even high range if you have to, wide receiver too. And like I said, I think he's got true top 10 upside rest of season. I think he's going to feast with Josh Allen here on out.
Yeah, I definitely think it's better for Amari Cooper moving forward. I don't view him that highly, top 10 potential. I've got him more in the flex category at this point. But another guy, one guy that what were you gonna say?
You're calling him.
I agree with you.
I mean,
you guys are wrong.
Yeah, I think I've got him at wide receiver 26 right now, maybe 27. So like I can see low end wide receiver 2, but I'm not getting that high. But
All right.
one guy I think it's kind of blatantly obvious. CeeDee Lamb. I mean, we lived this reality last year. He's a disappointment going into their week 7 bye, and they come out guns a-blazing, throwing the ball at the highest rate in the league. Mike McCarthy's playing for his job or coaching for his job, and the Cowboys go bananas. I mean, it's not like we're giving up on the talent of CeeDee Lamb. It's just that the offensive environment hasn't been there, and I mean, there really hasn't been an indication to believe that they're going to turn things around. But I mean, I'm still willing to bet on the talent of CeeDee Lamb. I think this is like this 6-game stretch is like the floor outcome for him, and I just don't think that it's going to get any worse.
Yeah, it does seem like the simulation is just kind of like run itself back. Literally the exact thing we saw from the Cowboys last year is happening yet again. So if that ends up being the same exact simulation we saw last year, yeah, well, it could go crazy. I do want to toss out David Njoku, like the other side of the Amari Cooper side of things. First game without him, 31% first read target share, 14 targets, 10 catches, 76 yards, and a touchdown, 23.6 points. The tight end won. And now you have famous Jameis coming in here, slinging him the rock. Oh, baby, I am all about David Njoku moving forward. I think he'll join that George Kittle, Brock Bowers, maybe just below those guys. But I could see a case for him being the number 3 tight end rest of the season based on the setup we got here.
One guy I also think, just like to pile on here, another guy who I just don't think it can get any worse for is Chris Olave. I really can it get any worse?
No,
like,
you're right. It probably can't.
Like how much better can it get? I guess is the follow up there. Can it get worse? No. How good can it get? Let's hear it.
Wide receiver 2 flex. I mean,
Amari Cooper or Chris Olave.
I've got Cooper ahead, but okay. they're both right there for me though. They're like fringe wide receiver 2 flex options for me right now. But I mean, like Derek Carr's timeline to return is similar to Olave's, and I mean, I you know me, I was as big of a Shaheed bull as there is, but like, who is gonna earn targets ahead of Chris Olave in this offense? Don't tell me it's Bub Means. Don't tell me it's Mason Tipton. Don't tell me it's Cedric Wilson.
I wish it was Bub Means.
Everyone, like the people who were pushing him as like a flex option last week, those people need to get a grip. It's like I tweeted that word for word last week ahead of Thursday Night Football, and like it's gonna be a 30% target share for Chris Olave moving forward when Derek Carr comes back. I mean, like. I know it sounds crazy, but like, is there another reality? Like, like we all know targets are earned, not handed out, and Chris Olave is going to be earning those targets. I think you're going to be fine with him in your starting lineup. I mean, like just assuming you have a flex like every league does. Like, I think you're going to be fine starting him in your flex moving forward.
We'll see. I got to go in a minute, fellas, but I can maybe do another of these. But I wanted to just throw out there 2 thoughts just that came to me stream of conscious. First of all, watching that Thursday night game, Spencer Rattler looked like maybe the worst person who's ever picked up a football in the NFL. I mean, I was and keep in mind, we watched Bryce Young all for a couple games this year. I was like blown away by how awful it was. And the second thing, speaking of terrible quarterbacks, have you ever seen like a fan base more thrilled with someone tearing their Achilles than what would happen with Deshaun Watson?
Oh, I mean, I'm a Bengals fan, so I was watching that game like every play, and I was like, wait, are they booing right now? And then like thought to myself, like, how are they doing this? And then I was like, yeah, it makes sense. Like, I'm not that shocked. Like,
right.
It's probably not the right call, but I'm not shocked.
Yeah, I mean, it's rare that you see someone just that like, yes, he's out.
That's karma for you right there, though. You know, like it's so clear. Right there.
Does he play another snap?
No,
for the Browns.
Maybe.
I think he's done. That's his NFL career right there. No one else is going to give him another chance, in my opinion, for Deshaun Watson. I know you said you got to run truth. I'll toss out, and if you got to run, you got to run. But you mentioned Cooper Kupp earlier. 44% target share in that first game, 21 targets, 51% of the air yards, 32 PPR points in week 1. Like, another one of those just no-brainer. Like if he was the second to first best receiver from here on out the rest of the year, no one would be shocked, and you could probably get him for a significant discount. Compared to that, yeah, you're taking on some big risk. Puka Nacua obviously falls in a similar boat, but I'd be much more interested in going after Cooper Kupp. I'm worried that the Puka knee thing is just going to linger all year, and so I think Cooper Kupp is one of those clear-cut, obvious ones. What is up, you fantasy wolf? Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, share your thoughts in the comments, check out some more videos, and join the newest Wolfpack by subscribing below.